Maybe it'll be good, and maybe it won't, and if it's no good, we're walking.
Though at one point, the president seemed to acknowledge that he may be better suited for the real estate business.
I think better than being president, I was maybe good at building. Like you people, you're good at building. Yeah, I think maybe we'll be better at president.
Mr. Trump also talked up his efforts to clean up the nation's system for caring for U.S. veterans.
That's why I made some changes, because I wasn't happy with the speed with which our veterans were taken care of.
One day after he fired David Shulkin as the head of the Department of Veterans Affairs. Shulkin, who believes he was ousted because he opposed privatizing the VA, responded in a scathing op-ed, writing, "The environment in Washington has turned so toxic, chaotic, disrespectful, and subversive that it became impossible for me to accomplish the important work that our veterans need and deserve." The president's replacement, White House physician Dr. Ronnie Jackson, is perhaps best well known for his glowing assessment of Mr. Trump's health earlier this year. Jackson's performance, one White House official said, played a part in the president's decision to tap the doctor.
You know, I told the president that if he had a healthier diet over the last 20 years, he might live to be 200 years old. I don't know. I mean, he has incredible genes. I just assume.
The president did not mention Russia in his speech, despite his administration's move to expel 60 Russian diplomats this week. Russia responded in kind today, kicking out the same number of U.S. officials, as well as ordering the closing of a consulate in St. Petersburg.
The important thing is that you voted.
But the president did find time to talk about his phone call with Roseanne Barr, whose sitcom is geared toward Trump voters.
Look at Roseanne. I called her yesterday. Look at her ratings. Look at her ratings. They were unbelievable. Over 18 million people. And it was about us.
Now, there were other moments in the president's speech when he veered from the subject of infrastructure, from when he vowed to pull the U.S. completely out of Syria and the war on ISIS, to when he compared the border with Mexico to the DMZ separating North and South Korea. All in all, Wolf, it sounded like a president who had a lot to get off his chest just before going back into seclusion for this holiday weekend. Wolf.
Good point. Jim Acosta, thank you very much. Joining us now, Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell of California. He's a member of the Intelligence and Judiciary Committees. Congressman, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Will, for having me back.
So you believe the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, made the right call?
No, I actually don't think there needs to be an investigation. There has not been a showing of wrongdoing. And so I think this, minimal investigation he's doing is just an effort to sing for his supper, to appease Donald Trump. But I think giving any light to this is just an effort to distract away from a lawful investigation into what Russia did, who they worked with, and make sure that anyone who worked with Russia is held accountable. And so I think he's just throwing meat out there to appease the president.
Republicans, many of your Republican colleagues, a lot of members of the conservative news media, they have a long list of concerns they wanted addressed, not by some sort of career Justice Department official, a prosecutor, but by a second special counsel. Listen to this.
Chairman and I have looked real close at the FBI investigation of the Clinton email scandal, and I've come away believing that it was shoddily done, that there were conflicts of interest, that there was political bias that may have resulted in giving Clinton a pass. The Steele dossier was paid for by the Democratic Party through Fusion GPS. Mr. Steele had associates in Russia that could have easily compromised him, and we believe the FISA warrant process was abused. And the reason we want a special counsel is I think crimes may have been committed.
I call on us appointing a special counsel, a second one, to investigate the investigators.
You're supposed to give the court the whole truth and nothing but the truth. I don't think they gave them the whole truth. So this needs investigating. The only remedy is a second special counsel.
The FBI and the Department of Justice aren't going to be putting the handcuffs on themselves, so we need a second special counsel.
Sources telling us tonight that there is a very high probability that Sessions, in fact, will act and that he will appoint a second special counsel.
Well, Sessions clearly rejected that recommendation. Do you believe, Congressman, President Trump will punish Sessions for this decision not to name a second special counsel?
Wolf, knowing this president, there's no limit to what he can do to try and humiliate his own attorney general. And you see there in your clips that my colleagues are working overtime to lay bricks, to build a wall between Bob Mueller and the president. They see that as their role. sadly, our role in Congress is to make sure that we protect the ballot box this upcoming election. And nothing gives Russia more comfort than to see Republicans taking their position, to side with them rather than the American people and their right to make their own decisions at the ballot box.
The president hasn't directly called for a second special counsel, but late last month he tweeted this, and let me put it up on the screen. Why is Attorney General Jeff Sessions asking the Inspector General to investigate potentially massive FISA abuse? Will take forever, has no prosecutorial power, and already late with the reports on Comey, etc. Isn't the Attorney General the Inspector General, excuse me, an Obama guy? Why not use Justice Department lawyers? Question mark. Disgraceful. Do you trust this prosecutor, Utah prosecutor John Huber, the man named today by the Attorney General to investigate all of this, to do a fair and thorough job?
Well, sure, I do. He's a career prosecutor now. He served with President Obama and now under President Trump. But what I am suspicious of and skeptical of is that he will receive pressure from Donald Trump and Jeff Sessions to use this as a way to distract from the Russia investigation. The best thing we can do is allow Bob Mueller to follow the evidence, and for this president to just come clean with the American people once and for all as to what he did with the Russians. And as to the diplomats who were expelled, that is just a one-off at this point. He needs to tell the country what is the Russia strategy. How will he achieve it? Will he confront Vladimir Putin directly? Will he actually impose the sanctions? Will he use the resources that are already devoted to countering Russia? Because this is about the ballot box this November more than it's about anything else. And we are vulnerable, Wolf.
Well, let me ask you about the Russian retaliation against the Trump administration's move to expel 60 Russian diplomats from the United States, shut down the Russian consulate in Seattle. You know what the Russians did today? They're expelling 60 American diplomats, shutting down the U.S. consulate in St. Petersburg. Do you worry, though, this could lead to a further escalation and a deterioration in U.S.-Russian relations, even worse?
Well, Wolf, right now there already is a deterioration. They attacked us. They've invaded Ukraine. They're creating chaos in Syria. They're buzzing our jets by flying near them and trying to provoke them. So what did we get out of being so close to Russia? We brought them in the Oval Office. The president gave them national security secrets. He speaks in such flattering ways about Vladimir Putin. But what do people at home? How does this relationship benefit them at all? It doesn't. It affects our national security. And it's time that we just get tough with them to actually try and change their behavior. Because nothing about the relationship the president has with them right now is changing their behavior.
Congressman Eric Swalwell, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Up next, Stormy Daniels suffers a setback.